Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to start the March reading vlog. It is the 2nd of March today and I just got a haircut. Oh my god, I look like myself again. So if you have seen the February vlog or any videos in February, I looked like a mess because they had closed all the hair salons here. They had closed everything basically. So yeah, I couldn't get a haircut since right before Christmas. I think I had my last haircut in the middle of December. So yeah, it's been a while and it feels so great to look like myself again, to be honest. So yeah, I'm very excited. But we're here to talk about books. So I do have a reading update. I'm currently reading this memoir. It's called Amon by Jennifer Tege. She wrote it together with a journalist called Nicola Sellmeyer. And this is a memoir about a woman who, when she's an adult, finds out that she's the granddaughter of a very famous Nazi. So that man, Amon Good? No, what's his name? Oh, I never know how to say the last name. He is the person that is portrayed in Schindler's Liste, and he's the one who portrays everything evil in this movie. And so you can imagine that this woman was very shocked when she found out that that is her grandfather, and she was adopted, so she didn't really know until she was like almost 40 years old. And this is a memoir about that, about her family, but also about growing up black in Germany, which I think is very interesting. I've heard mixed reviews, but so far I'm really enjoying this. I am currently on page 170 and it's not that long. I think I have about 100 pages to go and I only started this yesterday, so it's a very, very fast read and yeah, just very, very interesting. I think I will talk more about this when I finished it, but yeah, so far I really enjoy it, so that's great. And then for my other reading, I'm listening to an audiobook, Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence. I think I have 8 hours of that left. And then I am also rereading the third Lord of the Rings book, Return of the King, with my partner, but we haven't really done a lot of reading in February, so yeah, we're still right in the middle, so I have to be better about that. But yeah, that's what I'm currently reading. I also started my reading challenge with my best friend again. We do that on our blog. We have a German book blog and we set ourselves the goal of 5,000 pages, and whoever reaches that first will get one book from the other person. So basically I have to read 5,000 pages as fast as possible so I can get a book. And yeah, so this book is definitely a good start because, as I said, it's a very fast read. We'll see how it goes. This is always just fun to motivate us to pick up our books. And yeah, I think that's all for now, and I hope you enjoy watching the rest of this. So today is the 3rd of March, and as you've seen, I have just received my copy of The Library of the Unwritten. I originally read this book from the library and then I decided to get my own copy because I liked it so much. And it was a little bit difficult to get that copy because I wanted it to match my copy of The Archive of the Forgotten, and I could only find it on Book Depository. So that has been a little bit of a struggle because of the whole Brexit thing, and now it arrived and it is ripped. So there is a little edge at the bottom of the cover ripped off, which is really annoying because yeah, that's just the copy I have to live with now, because I'm not trying to do that again with the whole Brexit thing, but whatever. I do have my own copy now and I'm super happy, and what matters is that all the pages are there because I love the story so much. So today I will finish Amon. This is yeah, a very, very fast read, and I only have a couple of pages left, so I will finish this later tonight and let you know all about it. And I have decided that after that I will go into the Dark Academics book club pick, and that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. So yeah, I'm really excited about this book, but I was shocked when I saw how tiny the font is. This is almost 500 pages, but the font is so tiny. It looks like footnotes basically. So yeah, I am really excited to read this book, but I am a bit afraid that it will be frustrating, because I feel like when you have like tiny font and it just takes you forever to read a page, sometimes it just gets a little bit frustrating because you feel like you're reading a lot but you're not really seeing the page count. And I know that it's not about the numbers at all, you know, but I don't know. I just have that feeling, you know, if I read a book like this, which I can basically read in like 2 to 3 days, depending on my workload, and then I read this book, which doesn't look much bigger, but it takes me like 1.5 weeks. It's just a bit frustrating, but yeah. The cover is gorgeous and I've heard great things, so I'm excited to start this later tonight. And then also I listened to another hour of my audiobook, Grey Sister, and I just wanted to say that Soul made me so squishy inside. That was such a good scene. So I'm not gonna go into it, but if you have read the series, maybe you know what I'm talking about. I'm basically a little bit more than halfway through the book right now, and yeah, it's definitely very exciting, and I love listening to it, and I definitely want to know what happens next. So it is the 4th of March and I'm really tired because I had a very long day at work, which, I don't know, the weather is also super grey and super rainy, so yeah, I just feel very tired. But I wanted to give you a quick update. Yesterday I did finish Amon by Jennifer Tege. This was a very, very interesting read. I will talk about it more in my wrap-up, I believe, but overall, I would say that the topics in this book are very interesting, but I think from the title you would think that it is more about the kind of Nazi history and less about all the other things in the author's life, but it really is more about the author's life and kind of like the shock that this history brought to this life. But yeah, I just felt like with the title you would expect something different, and I think that is a little bit unfortunate because that would leave people unsatisfied with the book. But I think it's very interesting, a very nice memoir, very quick read, interesting. Yeah, and I decided to give it 3.5 stars for that. Then I'm currently on page 18 of Legendborn, so I can't really say a lot about this yet, but I started reading it last night right before falling asleep, and I am really interested to see, you know, how it progresses. I will go into the bathtub now and read some more, so I'll probably be able to talk more about this tomorrow. But yeah, we met Bree, our main character. This has a trigger warning for death of a parent so far, and yeah, she just got to campus, and so far nothing really has happened apart from her backstory. So yeah, I am very intrigued. I really like the short peek that we got at the friendship of Bree and Alice, so I hope that this will be an important part of the story because I always like reading about female friendships, so we'll see. But yeah, this is what I'm excited about right now. But then I also got a book in the mail today, and that is probably a bit of a mistake, but it is Middlemarch by George Eliot. And this is a book that I had no intention of reading, but then Kira, I think her channel name is Kira Foster, she started a read-along for this, which is going to happen in March and April. And I know that this is a big mistake because this book is huge, but I do like reading these huge classics in these kind of read-alongs. I did that last year with Les Mis, and it worked out really well. So yeah, for some reason I decided to join in because it was so much fun last time, and I always never thought I would read Les Mis. So yeah, we continue with that trend. So I got this in the mail. The read along starts next week, so on the 8th, and then you read, I think, about 14 chapters every week, which yeah, I thought would be really easy, but the first 14 chapters is that much of the book. I think it's like 140 pages. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. This might cost me the victory in this little reading thing that I have with my best friend, which I told you about. Because yeah, this is a classic, it's in English, and it has a shit ton of pages. So I'm pretty sure that this will slow me down. But who cares? I'm gonna read that. So yeah, these are my immediate reading plans, and now I just have to get to it, I guess. So today is the 9th of March, and I thought I'd give you a quick update on my reading. I'm currently 180 pages into Legendborn. So far, I'm really enjoying this book, and I heard a lot of people say that the second half is even better than the first half. So that makes me really, really excited to continue on with this read. I think that the characters in this book are just very complex. I really enjoy that they all have their own struggles, and even the side characters feel like real people who have their own lives, even if they're not on the page. So I really like that. I also think the plot is really intriguing with the kind of legend, and there have been a couple of things revealed right now. Which I think is very interesting, because obviously the main question is what kind of abilities does Brie have and why? So yeah, I think that this book is really, really interesting in that regard. I don't know how I feel about the whole like demon thing yet. I always get a little bit bored with demons because I feel like they're in so many books, and yeah, I just don't think that's a very like unique concept, but we'll see how that develops. And yeah, I don't know, the like villainous side still feels a little bit flat and boring, but I think all the other characters are complex enough, and I really, really do enjoy Nick as a character. I think there will be kind of like a love triangle possibly in the future, but right now, I mean, her feelings definitely center on Nick, and I do enjoy that. And yeah, I think it's just really cute to see these two characters who obviously care about each other, even though they just met. And yeah, I'm just intrigued to continue on with this book. And then yesterday the Middlemarch readathon or read-along started. So I think you have to read around 2 chapters a day. So that's what I did yesterday. I read the first 2 chapters. Those first 2 chapters don't really tell you too much yet. You've met the important characters, and I think that these first 2 chapters kind of give off an Austen vibe, but they just feel a little bit more deep, and they focus more on themes of religion and philosophy. And so yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by this book. I don't really have any opinion yet, but I did like the kind of characterizations of the characters, especially of the main character, what's her name? Dorothea. I really like that her sister calls her Dodo. I think that's so cute. I would hate my sister if she would call me like that, but yeah. So as I said, I can't really talk about it yet, but I am intrigued to read the next 2 chapters today. So today is the 11th of March, and I wanted to give you a very enthusiastic book update because I love all the books I'm reading right now. But I don't know if you've heard, but in the UK, a woman went missing a couple of days ago, and there has been a lot of stuff on Twitter about how, you know, media usually blames women for their behavior if stuff like that happens, and how, yeah, toxic and sexist a lot of the world still is today, especially when it comes to sexual violence and feminicides and stuff like that. I hope that's the right word. I never know how to say it, to be honest, but you know what I mean. So yeah, this really hit me quite hard today because yeah, it's just a fucked up world that we live in. And I wanted to mention it in this vlog because, yeah, I feel like it's something that we like to push away and we like to not think about as much as possible. But whenever something like this happens and the media is droning out all their great advice on women and how they could stay safe, and you know, all the men on Twitter telling us to just learn to defend ourselves and buy guns, whatever, yeah, it just hits really, really hard. And so I hope if you are watching this that you educate yourself and that you try to understand why it's not the women that need to change in our society, and that we are living in a rape culture. And also, I don't know if you've heard this as well, but in Switzerland, they just had this thing where they decided that I think wearing a burqa is forbidden now, which is, yeah, really dumb as well, obviously. The whole rhetoric behind that is very anti-Islam and it's very xenophobic and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a shitty world that we live in, and there have been some really, really good tweets facing that, but yeah, it's just a very triggering topic, to be honest. If you are a young woman in this world, you are probably triggered by stuff like that. So yeah, I'm sorry if you are, but oh no, the sun is coming out. Now I look very horrible. Okay, let's do it like that. But yeah, that's my state of mind right now. So even though I will try to talk about these books like with all the enthusiasm right now, I'm not quite sure if I can manage. So first of all, we have Middlemarch. I think about 60 pages into this right now, and I am enjoying it. I don't really know what's going on yet, but we just met a new character. I don't know how to say her name. I think it's like, oh, let me check. Mrs. Cat Veladar? I don't know. If you know how to say the name, please let me know. But she was a really, really interesting character. She just popped up in the last chapter that I read. And yeah, this is interesting because I have no idea where this goes. I have no idea what this is about. But yeah, I think the characters are very interesting. And the whole setup right now, yeah. I can't wait to see where this goes, because this is obviously a very, very long book, so a lot of stuff will happen now, and I'm definitely intrigued. Then I made it to part 3 in Legendborn, so I'm now at the point where everyone says this book gets even better, and I don't know how, to be honest, because right now this is gonna be a 5-star read for me if it keeps the pace. So I really loved the beginning of this book. I think this is a very, very cool concept, because this book teaches you about stuff like real life racism and sexism and the whole lot of oppression that there is in this world. But it deals with it in a kind of like urban fantasy setting, and it's just so interesting at the same time, because, you know, especially the racism, it's not the focus of the book, but it pops up in so many instances that it makes you realize how prevalent this is. And it doesn't feel forced. It's not like you feel, oh yeah, she's like pulling another racism thing right here. No, when you get into these situations with the main character, you see it coming. You're like, okay, this has to end up with like some racist comment or other, because how could it not? Yeah, I think that is very, very well done. But apart from that, it's also such a heartwarming, fun story. I love the main character. I love her best friend Alice. They're so cute together. And then also, we got a little romance going on now. And I loved it. I was squealing so hard because it is written in such a cute way. It just gave me back all those teenage feels I haven't had in a very long while. So yeah, I loved how that was written. And yeah, I am obsessed with this book. I hope you go read it. I was a little bit afraid that it wouldn't be as good as I want it to be, but right now I have no doubt, to be honest, and I think this will be a 5-star read in the end. And then lastly, I'm almost done with my audiobook Grey Sister. I have 1 hour left now, and to be honest, this book is taking all the twists and turns right now at the end, and I'm so afraid because I know that the author has no problem with killing off characters that I like. And I don't want any of these characters to die. I care about this book so much right now. I don't think it will be a 5-star book because there are things that bother me about it. But it might be a 4.5 in the end because, yeah, as I said, I just have an hour left and I'm just so hooked. I'm so hooked. I love all the intrigue. I'm not the biggest fan of the battle scenes, but obviously they just have to happen. It's just not my personal taste, to be honest. But yeah, all the moments when, you know, stuff comes together and you finally learn why character A does this and that and how character B reacts to it and stuff. Oh, I love it. I love it. I think it's so well done. So yeah, I'm scared, but also super excited to finish this later today. And yeah, then I will probably read the last book in the series because honestly, it has me hooked. It definitely has. And I think that Grey Sister is better than Red Sister, to be honest. So we'll see where Holy Sister can go. We'll see. So that's all the books I'm reading right now. And I'm so excited to read some awesome books because February really wasn't that great. So I hope I can update you soon again with more gushes. So today's the 16th of March and I have to update you on a couple of things. Now, first off, I finished my audiobook for Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence and I decided to give it 4.5 stars because I really enjoyed this story. I really liked the political intrigue and the world building and the development of the characters. There were some really cute moments. But apart from that, I had a couple of issues, one being that I wasn't a big fan of the fight scenes, which I know they belong in the story, but it's just not for me. Sometimes it just gets a little bit too much for me. And then also, yeah, there were just some smaller things that, yeah, I just didn't vibe with, I guess. But I decided to go on to the third book now, which is Holy Sister, and I have only listened to about half an hour of it, so I can't really tell you anything about that yet, but I'm very intrigued to see where this series finally goes. Then I'm almost 170 pages into Middlemarch for the read-along that is happening right now. And yeah, I'm somewhere in the second book right now. And I don't really get this book so far. So I guess this is really just about this small town, Middlemarch, and not really about characters. I didn't really understand. The first book is called Miss Brooke. And in the beginning it is about Miss Brooke. But then during the end of this first book, you start following other characters, and I don't really understand why. And then you go into the second book and you keep following those characters that have nothing to do with this Miss Brooke. So I liked the beginning of this, but right now I'm losing interest a little bit because it's much more about certain men in the community and their political kind of, yeah, quarrels, I would say. So yeah, there's one character, Fred, which I despise. I really don't like him at all. And yeah, I don't really know what this book is about. So yeah, I'm a little bit iffy about it right now. I hope that it will change its direction a little bit again. Yeah, and I don't really get the structure, to be honest. So we'll see how that goes. And then I am 340 pages into Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. And this one I'm still enjoying. Again, I didn't like the last couple of changes in the plot that happened. So we get to see a lot more of Sel now. And I do get that his character is yeah, more of the troubled, gloomy type. But I think he was a real dick during the middle of this book. So I don't really like the direction this is going in right now. I will continue this. I hope that it will be a 5-star read at the end. I'm pretty positive it will be, but just the kind of things with Zell right now, I don't like them. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I'm very happy that I'm nearing the end now and I can know what it's all about at the end, because people keep telling us in the chat for this group read that the ending is pretty good. So you'll see about that. So that would be all I am currently reading, and I will update you soon. So today's the 17th of March. I don't have a lot to update you on, but I think I look quite cute today, so yeah. I have read 2 more chapters of Middlemarch yesterday. I don't really know what I'm reading there. They just decided about the chaplain for the hospital, I guess. So that was, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I'm having fun reading this, but I'm also like completely confused what the actual story is. So we'll see where this goes. I'm almost a quarter of it done now, which is really cool, because this is a massive book, so it feels like an accomplishment. Another thing I quickly wanted to talk about is that we finished watching The Boys on Amazon Prime, and that is a TV show which I think is based on a comic series, but I think I've heard pretty bad things about the comics, so I will never read these. But we watched the show and it was definitely something. You've probably heard of it, it's not new. But this is a show where you have an alternative reality world where superheroes are real, but they are not the good guys, basically. So there's this huge corporation called Vault, and the biggest superheroes are contracted by them, and they have movie deals and merch and stuff like that, so they make a ton of money out of this, but they have kind of lost the doing good things part of the superhero business. So yeah, it was definitely a lot. It's like the bloodiest, goriest TV show about superheroes I've ever seen, but in very many aspects it's quite realistic. And yeah, so I am really excited that there will be a 3rd season soon, but also I'm still processing everything that happened in that TV show. So one thing I will say is that the main motivation of the main characters, of the male main characters, is that their girlfriends died, or wives, or whatever. One couple was married, the other one was not. So that's not a great thing. But apart from that, they do try to pick up on some feminist themes. There's also, later on in the series, discussions about lesbian couples and how they are portrayed. And yeah, all with this kind of corporation filter. It's very interesting. So if you haven't seen it and you don't mind the gore, which is, season 2 is even worse than season 1, to be honest. So there's also violence against animals. That is the part that was the worst for me personally. But yeah, it's a weird show, but I would recommend it. So I wanted to tell you about that, and now I'm gonna shut up. So today is the 18th of March, and last night, or yeah, last afternoon, I participated in some reading sprints, because I haven't told you yet that Tome Topple is happening right now, and I'm kind of participating a little bit because the books I'm reading are around the 500-page mark or more. So yeah, I participated in some reading sprints done by Adri yesterday, and I will try to remember to link their channel down below because I think they're great and you definitely have to check them out. And so yeah, I did actually read something last night. So for one, I read the next 2 chapters in Middlemarch, so I'm now pretty much a quarter through the text, and I'm very excited. Also, we're now back with Dorothea, and she is currently in Rome, which, yeah, jealous. I love Rome, it's my favorite city, so yeah, but she's not feeling too great, so we'll see where that goes. But I'm just glad that we jumped back to her storyline because I wasn't really interested in the other stuff that we get in between. So yeah, I hope that this will pick up a little bit again for me. And then I'm on page 405 in Legendborn, so I hopefully will finish this tonight. And I love this book, I really do. We had so many revelations now in these couple of pages that I've read yesterday. Chapter 42, I think it is. Very emotional, definitely had me in tears, and I really enjoyed this book so much, and I can't wait to read the ending and finally be able to chat with all of the people who are also reading this book right now or have recently finished it, because the kind of group chat for the book club is full of spoilers. So yeah, I definitely want to finish this so I can read all these spoilery comments about it, because people seem to love it so much. And yeah, I'm just really excited to read the end of this. Yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say for now. I also listened to more of my audiobook, but I feel like I'm in that beginning phase where I have to find my bearings a little bit and I can't really talk about it so much. So yeah, talk to you later. Good morning, everyone. Today is the 22nd of March and it's the beginning of my 2-week holiday. I'm off from work and I'm super excited. It's my first official day of vacation, so yeah, I will just be probably staying here for the whole time. You know, it's still COVID, no traveling and such, so we'll see. But I have exciting reading plans, so we'll see whether I can make this a little bit more interesting for the vlog as well. But for now, I have a ton of updates because I have been reading a lot. So first of all, I wanted to say that I finished Legendborn and I decided to give it 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. I think there were a couple of things that I was a little bit worried about where it might go, but in the end, I felt like it all wrapped up super nicely. I think that there were a couple of surprises, but also a couple of things that I saw coming, so it was really nice, kind of mixed bag in a sense that there was a little bit of everything that I love. So yeah, this was great and I can't wait for the sequel, even though this is one of the books where I'm just so worried that the sequel won't hold up because this first book is so good. So yeah, I was really glad to finish this. This is the Dog Academics book club pick for March and April. So if you want to join in, it's not too late. You still have the whole month of April to read this and join into the book club. And I would highly recommend it because this book is great. Then I'm about 290 pages into Middlemarch. This is still, yeah, a book where I don't really know what I'm getting, but I feel like I'm getting more into the story, which is a little bit ridiculous to say after almost 300 pages of a book. But as you can see, I'm now exactly 1/3 through. I feel like I'm getting the characters and their connections a little bit more now, and yeah, there haven't been so many chapters that felt completely out of place lately, so I am interested to see where this goes, because that's one thing about this book. I have no idea where this is going, because obviously it's a classic, and back then the kind of story progression things were quite different than they are today, so that's what I enjoy about classics. Yeah, apart from that, I think that the storyline with Dorothea is still very interesting. It has definitely changed a lot, you know, with her first being like single, then meeting a man that she's in love with, marrying, then going on her honeymoon, and now being back. It definitely is like a roller coaster for her, definitely. I'm really happy for the things that are happening to Celia in this first third, and I hope that she will be the one that actually gets the good stuff happening to her. I hate Fred. Fred is such a dick. She's just a brat. So there were a couple of chapters in here where he's in debt, and basically what the consequences of his actions are with that. made me so furious. I hate him so much. I don't know how people are like, oh, well, maybe he will have great character development. I'm like, no. Like, if you're starting from that point, like, I don't care about your character development. Sorry. But yeah, I really don't like the chapters about Fred. On the other hand, I love Mary. I think she deserves so much better. She's great. And what else do we have? Oh, obviously, the doctor. I think it's Lydgate or something like that. I don't know how to say his name. Yeah, I mean, the back gives a little bit away what happens to him, and I don't know how I feel about that part yet. But yeah, the characters are coming together more. You can see all of them interact at certain points, so that's helpful, because in the first part they are all quite separate storylines, and that's a little bit confusing at the beginning. So yeah, still reading Middlemarch. Then I'm also 113 pages into the Midnight Library, which I'm buddy reading with my best friend. I got her the German copy for her birthday, and yeah, we're reading this together. So far, I do like this book. I think that the messages are quite good. They are very obvious, but also I feel like these are some kind of things that we all need to hear sometimes. Now, I must say the hardest hitting chapter for me was the one about the cat, because if you remember 2 years ago, I lost my cat, and it was, you know, a very weird situation that made me feel quite guilty, and I struggled a lot with that. So that was definitely a hard-hitting chapter in that sense, but it was exactly what I needed to hear. And yeah, I think if I had read this like a year ago or even longer ago, it would have been really devastating, but so it just worked out okay. Yeah, I do like the main character. I think she is very, very interesting, and I definitely feel for her, even though her life is very different than mine, but I do feel for her, and I can relate to the things she's going through and her choices, and how sometimes, you know, choices are just really, really hard. And this book is a lot about regret, obviously. If you haven't heard about this book yet, it's basically about a woman committing suicide, and then she wakes up in this midnight library where she can try out different lives that would have happened if she had made different choices. And yeah, so she's basically going through a ton of these lives and just seeing what would have happened. And as you can see, it's quite a short book, so you don't go into like a ton of depth, but it's just more about the messages. And yeah, it's a lot about regret, and that's something that's very important to me, because I feel like that, yeah, it's just important to live a life where you don't regret things a lot, and yeah, make just good choices and really think about your choices, and yeah, just try to be as rational about it as you can, because if stuff goes wrong, you can always be like, well, but I made this choice. I really thought about it. And I think that's what the main character doesn't do. And so she has a lot of regrets. And yeah, as I said, I do like the messages so far, but it feels more like a 4-star read. I'm not completely taken over by it yet. And then yesterday night, on a whim, I decided to start this book because Tome Topple is still going on, and this is almost 500 pages, so I'm counting it. It's the longest book on my TBR right now, so yeah. I think in English this is called Why the World is Still Asleep. The German title, Solange die Welt noch schläft, by Petra durst-benning. This is the first book in this series. I have talked about the third one already because I'm reading these out of order. This is a Christmas gift by my best friend. She gave one of these books to 3 of her friends. It's a trilogy with their companion books, so you can read them out of order. Well, yeah, so this one follows a girl who likes bike riding in the late 1800s, and that's obviously not a very feminine and proper thing to do, and it is about, yeah, her journey and how bike riding is connected to the suffragette movement and stuff like that. So I hope this will be more interesting than the third book. I really didn't have a good time with the third book because the themes were just not for me. So I hope this one will be more my cup of tea, because I do think, you know, this whole connection is very interesting. And I do like riding my bike, and I'm a feminist. So maybe I can see more of myself in this book. So that's what I'm currently reading, and I hope that I finish at least the German book and Midnight Library before Friday, probably. And yep, then I can pick up some new books. So today's the 23rd, and I have read quite a lot yesterday. It was a really good reading day. I don't know what I want to mention. Like, I made progress in all of my books yesterday. With my audiobook, Holy Sister, I'm now pretty much 50% through this, and I think it's interesting because usually with the other two books in the series, there was like a bigger twist right in the middle. I feel like this one also has that, so there were two things happening right now, which, seem like really surprising, I would say. And you're not really sure where it's gonna go with that, but I feel like it's not such a big one as it was in the others. So yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying Holy Sister, and I'm really interested to see where it goes, where the trilogy comes to an end. So yeah, I think I will talk more about this soon. I also read more of the Midnight Library. I'm now 190 pages through, so we are planning on finishing the buddy read tomorrow. And yeah, I still like it. I think it's very obvious where this is going. But I do like the messages, and I do like the different themes that are explored in here, and how, there's always regret in a life. So yeah, we just never know the outcomes and stuff like that. So yeah, I really am enjoying this. And then maybe finally with the German book I'm reading right now, I also read a good chunk of that. I'm now a fifth of the way through with it. And with this one, I am enjoying it more than the other book of the series I had read before. But I also feel like the timing is slightly off, and there's also a couple of conversations that did not make sense to me. So it's a mixed bag with this one. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, I'm glad that I had such a good start into my reading vacation, so I will keep you updated. So it is the 25th of March today, and I have a couple of updates. First off, yesterday I finished the Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Oh gosh, what's going on with me? I really like this book. I decided to give it 4 stars. I don't think it's perfect, but it's a very enjoyable read. I think that it hits you over the head a little bit with the messages, but also some of these are just things that we all need to hear sometimes. And so, yeah, it was a really good, enjoyable read. It's also quite short, so it was exactly what I expected it to be, and I really enjoyed it. So if you haven't picked this one up yet, I highly recommend it. Then I'm now also almost 380 pages into Middlemarch. We just had a scene where a will was pronounced, or whatever you would call that, which really reminded me of Knives Out, which was great, because there was a whole lot of family, and everyone thought that they deserved the biggest part of the inheritance, and then it just turned out quite differently than everyone expected. So yeah, this is a fun read. It's still not my favorite classic. I think that it definitely has interesting themes and interesting characters, and on the other hand, I feel like some parts are just a little bit long-winded, and I don't always get all the nuance, I guess, because English is not my first language, and so sometimes, with these kind of classics, it's a little bit difficult. For example, I have no idea. Every chapter starts with like a quote, and I have no idea what these are about. Like, I've never managed to really draw a connection. But yeah, it's enjoyable, so I will keep reading that. And then I also read a tiny bit more in my German book, but this is definitely the one that I will concentrate on now, that I definitely want to finish soon. I am a little bit more than 100 pages into that. And then I have 5 hours left of my audiobook, Holy Sister by Mark Lawrence. And honestly, I don't know. There is so much happening, but I'm still like, I don't know what else will have to happen, because, you have certain expectations where the ending will go. And I don't know if this will be satisfying, because like there's only 5 hours left. So I'm a bit worried there, but we will see. But I am enjoying it. I think it has a couple of nice twists and turns, and it's definitely a lot of action now, a lot of war happening, and yeah, I'm excited to see how this series ends, definitely. Today's the 29th of March. I don't really remember what my last update was, but I think I told you that I finished the Midnight Library and decided to give it 4 stars. So now, yesterday, I managed to finish this German book. In English, it is called While the World is Still Asleep. And this is a historical fiction book set in the like 1890s and is all about bicycles and how they started to spread around Germany and around the world. And yeah, just a young woman who really wants to ride a bicycle, but it was not accepted that women do that. So this is what this book mainly focuses on, and I decided to give it 3.5 stars. I thought that it was much better than the third book in this series, which I had read first, which is a little bit weird. But yeah, I think that with this book you really felt like the author had a good idea that she really wanted to write about. She also gives you some images in this book where she shows you like the actual kind of proof from the times, so that really helped to imagine what bicycles looked like at the time and what these kind of clothes looked like that people would wear to ride their bicycles and stuff like that. So yeah, this was definitely better. I also had not as much problems with the characters, even though there were a couple of things that just didn't make sense to me at all. But yeah, overall this was enjoyable, and if this is the kind of stuff you like to read, I think you will enjoy this. It's just not the stuff that I like to read, so I think yeah, 3.5 is a fair rating for me personally. And yeah, that one is done now. And so yesterday was also the end of Tome Topple, I believe. Yesterday or the day before, but I basically managed to read or to finish 2 tomes during Tome Topple, and I made a lot of progress in Middlemarch as well, which would count as a tome 2. So with this one, I didn't read my portion for yesterday, so I just finished the 4th book, so I am exactly halfway through right now, and I will continue reading this later today. But yeah, I don't really have anything new to say about that, I guess. And then for my reading plans right now, apart from Middlemarch, I finally want to finish the Shadow Me series. So I will start this novella collection, Find Me, which is from the point of view of Kenji, which is probably my favorite character of the series. And so yeah, I will read Shadow Me, the novella Shadow Me, which I think is set between the 4th and the 5th book, which is where I am right now, and then I will go into Defy Me, which is the 5th book, and reread that one. I hadn't read the novellas before, but I have read Defy Me before, so I will reread this, and then I'm finally ready to go into the last book, Imagine Me, which I had on my TBR shelf for a year now. So yeah, that's my plan for now. I really want to finish the series, and right now there's this readathon going on. It's called Touching Your Shelves, which is a little bit of a, you know, risque title for a readathon, but it's basically about reading the books that you have, so not buy anything or not go to the library and get anything new, if I remembered correctly. And yeah, one of the prompts for that readathon is to finish a series, so I think with my current reading plans I might do that. It's a week-long readathon, so it ends on Friday, which is already April, so it will not all be covered in this vlog, but yeah, that's my reading plans for now, and I will keep you updated. So today's the 31st of March, it's the last day, and I just finished my audiobook Holy Sister by Mark Lawrence, and I loved it. I have heard people say they didn't like the last one, but I absolutely loved it. I decided to give it 4.5 stars. I think that this is a great conclusion to the series. I think that it definitely had the same vibe throughout, which, yeah, since I read them all together, like I binged them basically, yeah, it just flows very naturally. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed this series, and now I'm really unsure whether I want to read the next series that is set in the same world. But yeah, I'm unsure about that. But there's so much to love about this series. I love the whole nun thing, which is something that I haven't read too many books that are set at a monastery or something like that. I really love that we have so much, yeah, like kind of female love representation. I was, yeah, shipping Era and Nonna so hard throughout the book, and I'm not gonna say whether it works out or not. You will have to read the books, but they have just such good chemistry, and I love that. And yeah, overall, I think the ending was done really well. I was really hoping that it would make sense in the end, because we get these few glimpses of a part of the end in the first book, and then the second one it completely disappeared, and that made me a little bit wary, and I was like, okay, what's happening there? Like, we're not getting that anymore. But it definitely came around again, and I'm not quite sure if everything 100% makes sense from that first glimpse, because I listened to it on audio when I was driving, so I might have misheard some things, but overall, I think it just tied it in quite nicely, and yeah, it was just a great series. I would recommend it if you want to read more, like, I don't know if this is grimdark, because I never know where the boundaries of genres lie, but it has definitely a lot of fighting, a lot of blood and gore, but it is very entertaining, and I just loved the characters, and I loved the dynamic of the characters, and I loved that we get this kind of long shot view with Abyss Glass. Yeah, and I just liked it so much. So yeah, I'm very, very happy. I'm still reading all my other books, so I'm still reading Middlemarch. I just arrived at chapter 50 last night, or last afternoon, and something quite dramatic happened that I think will turn the story in a new direction. I thought that it was coming, but I actually didn't think it would come as soon, so I was quite surprised with that. And yeah, I'm just gonna, you know, keep my pace throughout April and finish this book in April, but it's not my favorite. I think it will turn out to be like a 3 or maybe 3.5 star read, but it is interesting enough, and I feel like reading 2 chapters every day works out quite well for me. And then I'm about 115 pages into Defy Me. I read a little bit more last night, and I had a hard time stopping, because this is definitely an addicting read. This is one of those books where you just want to lay down and read it in one go. It's not like the best book. I feel like the beginning is a lot in this one. Obviously, the 4th book sets a lot of things in motion, and you can totally see that you will get a completely different story from what you thought you would get. But yeah, I enjoy this. I wish I could just sit down and read the rest of this today, but unfortunately I do have other things I have to do. But yeah, I hope that I will finish this very early in April. I probably will do a last check-in before we get the wrap-up part, but yeah, I'm just enjoying rereading this, but I don't think I will finish it. So this is my current progress, and now the biggest question is what's gonna be my next audiobook, because yeah, I have so many. My wishes is like endless, but I thought about, I really want to read Concrete Rose this spring or summer. I really want to read what's it called, Darius the Great. Oh, what's it called, like the second one? Darius the Great is not okay, and I don't know, but the second one. And then I also really want to read I'm so bad with book names. Into the Neverwoods, something like that. The new Aidan Thomas book. And I think I might start with that one, just because it sounds more magical. And I think coming from this high fantasy series, I'm not ready to go into contemporary quite yet. So I think I will get the Aidan Thomas book, because I'm really excited about that, even though I know nothing about Peter Pan, and this is like inspired by Peter Pan, or it's a retelling or something like that. And I don't really like it. But I think, yeah, I think I will get that book. So we'll see. I'll let you know. I'll let you know. And yeah, so much to my ramblings. Oh, also more ramblings. I wanted to mention that a lot of horrible shit happened this month, and I think I've addressed some of it. But not all of it, because it's getting overwhelming, to be honest. Like, we have the new anti-trans laws in Arkansas, which is horrible. We have the hate crimes against Asian people in the US and all over the world, which is even more horrible. Can it be even more horrible? I don't know. Yeah. I feel like March has been a horrible month. Here in Germany, we have huge issues with the vaccine. We don't get people vaccinated fast enough. We are struggling with AstraZeneca. First we introduced it and we said only people that are younger than 60, I believe, can get it. Then they took it off because there had been some issues with it, and now they introduced it back, and it was, going for a while, and now they had a new restriction that only people who are older than 60 can get it, which... It's a mess. It's a mess. Nobody wants this vaccine anymore. Like, about a month ago, you weren't allowed to get it when you were older than 60, and now you're the only person who can get it. Like, no. Like, even I am like, I don't know if I would go for it. But yeah, so March has been a mess of a month. And yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't address that enough, but I just felt like I can't even deal with it anymore. Yeah, the world's a horrible place, and I hope you go and educate yourself on all the horrible things that are happening and what we can do to stop them. But yeah, on a lighter note, we started watching the Mrs. Maisel show on Amazon. I know I'm really late to that, but I always forget Amazon Prime and that it has its own originals. So we started that, and it's amazing. Like, we're still on the first season, but it's amazing. So if you're also late with that, give it a watch. So that's all I'm gonna say. See ya. Okay, one quick last check-in for this March vlog. Today was a bit of a wild day because my cat started to be sick last night. And so this morning, it's one day before Easter, I had to find a vet who would see her, which was really stressful, but we managed. We were really lucky. And so, yeah, we went to the vet this morning, and it's all fine. There's nothing serious, but I just didn't want her to suffer all through Easter, because I knew that this is something that needs medication, even though it's not like something serious. So, yeah, crazy day. But I made it halfway through Defy Me. I'm still staying at my point that this is not my favorite book of the series. But yeah, these are just so fast reads, so I think I just blow through it, whatever. And also I started listening to the first hour of Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas, my audiobook. And I loved it. I started listening to it last night when everything was still fine. I wanted to listen to more this morning, but as I said, then things went a little bit crazy, so I did not listen to more. But the first hour is really good. You're right in the story, and I'm just so excited to see where this goes. I don't really like Peter Pan as the original storyline, but I think that this is gonna be a very interesting take on it, and I do like Wendy as a character so far. She's suffering with, I think, PTSD. I think she's a very interesting character, and yeah, creepy wits. We just all love the creepy wits tropes, don't we? So yeah, this is all the reading for March, And now we will transition into the wrap-up part of this video. So welcome to the wrap-up part of this video. If you want, you can guess down below what kind of makeup I'm wearing right now, because I did a makeup tutorial and that will probably be up next week. But yeah, right now it just looks funny to you. So unfortunately, March wasn't the amazing reading month that I wanted it to be. I had the last 2 weeks of the month off and I was like, I'm gonna read so many books during that time. But as always, you know, it just didn't happen quite in the way that I thought it would. But let me talk about all the books that I've read in March now. So the first book I finished in March was Amon by Jennifer Tege and Nicola Sellmeier. This is a German book about a woman who is mixed race, and she grew up not knowing who her family really was. She knew who her mother was, but then when she's, I don't know, in her 30s or 40s, she finds out that her grandfather was actually a very famous Nazi. It was the man who is portrayed in Schindler's Liste, who is kind of like the evil person. I think he's played by, is it Ralph Fiennes, the one who plays Voldemort? I think he portrays that character that actually is a real person, or was a real person, and that is her grandfather. And she wrote this book kind of like how she found out about it in a public library, which is the craziest thing ever, and then how she came to terms with it, basically. So by that point, I think she's in her 40s. She already has a family, she has a husband and 2 children, and this kind of, yeah, kind of breaks her world, and she has to really think about what that means for her whole life, because she's been to Israel, she studied there, she has very close friends there, and she, yeah, just has to think about all the meaning that kind of heritage has for her life. Also knowing that she, as a mixed race woman, her father was black, how her grandfather would probably, as the subtitle suggests, killed her, because, as I said, he was like this really famous, crazy Nazi man. So yeah, this was enjoyable. It's a very short and quick read. I got this from the library, and in the end I gave it 3.5 stars. Yeah, it was enjoyable. I don't think it is mind-blowing, but it's my first book that I've ever read from a person who is the grandchild of one of the like major Nazis. So there is a ton more, but obviously all the other ones are white, because yeah, that's just how Germany works, I guess. So I thought that was the most interesting thing about this one. Also the whole connection to Israel and Jewish people in general, and yeah, that basically Jennifer Tege sees the world from the complete opposite standpoint as her grandfather did, and then finding out who he was and stuff like that. So yeah, enjoyable if you want to read a German memoir. Then the next book I finished was my audiobook, Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is the second book in the Book of the Ancestors trilogy, and this trilogy follows Nonna Grey, who lives in this kind of fantasy world. It's a completely different planet, and that planet is in a solar system where the sun is dying. So most of this planet is already covered with ice, and there's just a very small corridor where people can still live, and that corridor exists because there is this kind of magical moon. They call it a moon, but it's not actually like our moon. It is kind of like a, yeah, like a thing in the sky that filters the sun rays and kind of beams it back onto this corridor to make sure that at least this kind of area is still inhabitable to humans. And Nonna lives in this world, and when she is, I think, 8 years old, she's taken into a convent, and the nuns there are basically killer nuns. So they have different kinds of magic, and they learn how to fight and how to trick people, and yeah, all kinds of things. There's like spies and warriors and stuff like that. And yeah, we follow Nonna in the second book after everything that happened in the first one. The first one definitely has a revenge plot, so you follow Nonna after something really horrible happened to her best friend, and Nonna is trying to bring the person who did that to her friend to justice. And in this second book, it kind of evolves, so it's not that much about this kind of revenge storyline anymore. We get a different perspective from the abbess of this cloister, and that is my favorite character. Like, Abbess Glass is so good. She's such a great character because she is a middle-aged woman. She looks very much like a motherly figure, but she is so smart and she always plays the long game. And so in this second volume, you kind of have more of that like really intricate political, religious discussion going on. And honestly, I was always so glad when we got to the chapters of Abbess Glass, because I just wanted to see how that storyline progresses. And even though I love Nonna as a character, I felt like her story wasn't as interesting because there's a lot more fighting and like gore and stuff like that going on in her storyline. But then in the middle of the book, it has kind of a twist. And so I was completely thrown off by that because I was like, okay, what the hell's gonna happen now? Which I love. It's something that in this series happens a lot, that right in the middle of the book you have something and you're like, okay, I don't know where it's gonna go from here, which was great. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this. I think this one was even better than the first one because I just like this kind of political intrigue storyline so much. So I decided to give this one 4.5 stars. Then the next book I finished was A Legend Born by Tracy Deonn. This is the Dark Academics book club pick for March and April, and I was so excited to read this book. I was really glad it was picked because I think otherwise I would have just put it off. But this is one of my favorite books of the year so far. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I think it is perfection. I loved everything about it. So in this book we follow Bree, who is a teenage girl. I think she's around 16, and she was allowed to come to this college. They have like an early program where high schoolers can join and already do a couple of credits and stuff like that. And so she's there with her best friend. Bree is black and her best friend is Asian. And they just started going to the school, and on their first night there, Bree sees something that looks very much like magic. And then there's this guy, Sel, who realizes that she saw something she shouldn't have and tries to erase her memories, but it doesn't work. She can still remember everything the next day. And the story kind of goes from there. It's just her in this kind of college setting exploring this magical society thing that she found. And this book deals a lot with grief because Bree has lost her mother right before she started going to that college. Her mother died in a car accident, and Bree feels very guilty because she had a fight with her mother right before that. So it deals a lot with that kind of grief, but then also with generational grief because all the women on Bree's mother's side have died very young. And so it also deals with that. Obviously, it deals with racism. You can't have a book set in a US college with a black main character without talking about racism, and it was so well done. I really loved this about this book because I recently read someone on Twitter, I think it was Aiden Thomas, but I'm not quite sure, talking about how when you write a book with a white main character and then in the last minute you change it to be an LGBTQ person or a black person or something like that, it doesn't work because all the interactions must be changed because of that identity. And this book really showed that because Bree's race was important in so many scenes, in so many interactions, and I just felt like it was so realistic. Like, obviously I don't know what racism feels like, but the way it was woven into the story always made sense. You never felt like it was done on purpose or they're bringing her race up again just to mention it or stuff like that. No, it wasn't. It was done flawlessly, and that's one of the main aspects I loved about this book. What I also loved about this book is Brie as a main character. She's fantastic. I loved the storyline. The ending was so good. I saw a couple of things coming, but then with other things I was like, okay, no, I did not see that coming at all. So yeah, it was just such a fun ride, such a great kind of urban, academic fantasy. Yeah. Just perfection. I love this. I love this. And I hope people read this because it's so good and I can't wait for the sequel. And luckily a lot of the people in the book club really love this book, so that made me very happy. Then next I buddy read this book with my best friend. This is the Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I really liked this book. I decided to give it 4 stars in the end, but yeah, it was just a very short book, but one that I could vibe with quite well. So in the Midnight Library, I have a hard time saying that because I always want to say midlight. I don't know. In this book, you're following a girl called Nora, and she commits suicide quite early on in the novel. So you follow her for I think a day, and then she commits suicide, but instead of dying she ends up in the Midnight Library, and this is a place where she gets to try out different lives. So from the moment she died, she can step into another life that is in another like alternate universe, if you say so, and she can look at the different lives she could have had if she had made other choices. And though obviously this book deals a lot with regret, it also deals with the kind of expectations that other people have for us, and how sometimes people are like, my life is just so unhappy because you did this and that, and for the most part that's rubbish, and that's something that this book touches on. It shows that we might regret a lot of things, but that we never know what would have happened if we had made a different decision. So for example, you might regret I don't know, not being there for your pet when it died, which is something I deal with a lot because, as you may know, my last cat died 2 years ago while I was on vacation, and I had, you know, girls coming here taking care of her, but yeah, she was just really old and it was just her time. So as I said, that's something I deal with, and then this book looks at it and is basically like, yeah, well, maybe if you would have been there, the cat still would have died. Like, what does it really change? And yeah, that's just one of the messages that is in this book, and the one that really helped me because there were some things that I needed to hear, but it deals with a lot of topics. There is a lot of trigger warnings in here, obviously for suicide, but also for the death of a parent or a relative in general, because depending on the universe she is in, certain people are dead. So yeah, just be prepared that this obviously shows all facets of life. But it's also fun in some aspects. So in one universe she's a superstar, and in the next one she's an Olympic swimmer. So yeah, I just really like that this book also showed how much potential there is in one person, and that, I don't know, we should just, you know, reach out to everyone. Like, even if we think a child is a bit odd or a bit weird, or we think that they're lazy and they will never do anything great with their lives, they have all this potential and they deserve our love no matter what. So yeah, I just really liked the kind of messages that were in this book. Now, from a literary standpoint, Matt Haig really wants you to get it. So all the messages are on the page all the time. And I can totally see that people get annoyed with that. I feel like if you are a person who really needs to hear these messages, this book is great. But as I said, I can totally understand if people are like, yeah, well, I get it. You don't have to like put it on my bread and like, what do you call that, spoon feed me all the important things about life. So yeah, 4 stars for me. I really liked it. Then I finished my last physical read, which is this book, Solange die Welt noch schläft by Petra Durst-Benning. The English title is While the World is Still Asleep, I think. This is one of those books I already talked about before. My best friend did a thing where she gave 3 of her friends 3 books for Christmas, and they all are in one big series, and now we ship them to each other so everyone can read every book in the series. This is the first book in the series, but the second book I've read, because the one I got was the third one, so I'm kind of reading it all over the place. But it doesn't really matter because it's companion books. I think it matters a little bit because if you read the third one first, as I did, you will know how the couples get together. But yeah, apart from that, it is fine. In this book, we follow another girl. Her name is Josephine, and she wants to ride the bicycle, but this is set in the 1890s, so the bicycle was still the big new thing, and it was only available to rich white men. And so this is about Josephine trying to find a way to be able to ride her bicycle in the way she wants, and this goes through a couple of years, so it's quite a long span of time. And we see her grow up with this desire to be free and to ride her bicycle. This also has a romance and some friendship tropes, but I think the friendships are like the weakest part in this series. I do not believe these friendships. They don't make any sense. The characters are horrible to each other the whole time. They're always complaining that the others don't care how they're feeling and stuff like that. So yeah. Don't read this for the friendships, it's horrible. The romance is okay, it's, as I said, just a minor plot point in here, so also don't read it for the romance. And yeah, what is left is kind of like the interesting details about the bike, which I had no idea about. Like, I had no idea when bicycles were invented and how they came to Germany, and that it wasn't really allowed for women to ride them, and there were doctors saying that you can be infertile if you ride a bicycle, because obviously up until then, when women were riding horses, they were sitting with both legs on one side. So having a machine thing where you put your legs on different sides was like unbelievable for the time. So yeah, I really liked that part of the book, but apart from that, it didn't really do much for me. I just don't like the writing style. You know, okay with the characters, but as I said, the dynamic of the characters is horrible, and so in the end, I decided to give this 3.5 stars. And then the last book I finished in March was my audiobook Holy Sister. This is the third book in the Book of the Ancestors series by Mark Lawrence, and I already talked about it since I already finished the second book in March. So this third book you know, progresses the kind of plot lines of the second one. There were a couple of changes. Mark Lawrence has no problem with letting important and beloved characters die, so we have a couple of changes in the characters, and that also influences the plot a whole lot. But I felt like the second and the third book definitely belong together a lot, and they have kind of the same trajectory, the same style. You have that part where it's mostly about political intrigue and planning and stuff like that, and then you also have the huge battle scenes, and I felt like it was a really good conclusion. I heard people say that they didn't like this last book so much and they had issues, but I felt like when you binge the series it works really well. Maybe if you have a little bit of time between the second and the third book, it doesn't work so well anymore, but I didn't have any of these issues, so in the end I decided to give the last book 4.5 stars as well, and for me it was a really good conclusion to the series, and I'm gonna miss these characters so much. I already can tell. So these were all the books that I finished, but if you have watched the vlog part, you know that I have a big commitment right now, and that is Middlemarch. So I am currently around 500 pages into it. I just started the sixth book in here, and there's 8 books in total, so I have 3 left. So this was a huge part of my reading in March as well, and I will talk all about that in the April wrap-up when I finished it. But yeah, that just took a lot of reading time, and that was the reason why I didn't finish more books, which I totally thought I would. And then I had also continued on with my reread of the Shadow Me series. This is book 5 and the novella collection, and I didn't quite manage to finish these off, so I will also talk about that, and then the last book in my April wrap-up. But yeah, so I had a pretty good reading month. I'm so glad that I read so many amazing books, because February was a little bit of a letdown. I read more mediocre books, so with like Legendborn and the Book of the Ancestors series and all these things, I just felt like my reading picked up a little bit more again, and I just read better books. So yeah, that would be all for this video. Leave a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you're new here, and I will talk to you soon with this makeup tutorial. So did you guess what it is? Bye!